Interface Video presents Fairfield Today. Brought to you by Fairfield Federal Savings and Loan, Fairfield Medical Center, Fairhope Hospice and Palliative Care, the Fairfield County Board of Developmental Disabilities, the Frankie Smith Funeral Home, Ohio University Lancaster, and Lancaster Fairfield Community Action Recycling and Litter Prevention.
Good day and welcome to Fairfield Today. Today we are bringing you the latest information from Fairfield Medical Center, and the two guests today joining me are Chad Cupp, manager of Fairfield Medical Center's Plant Engineering, and Regina King, patient experience advocate at FMC. As many of you are well aware, FMC is in the midst of a $37.8 million facility expansion that's called Project Bright. It's slated for completion in 2015, and work is well underway if you have been anywhere near Ewing Street lately. Located to the south of the hospital, this new addition will feature an all-new surgery department, a surgical intensive care unit, and 30 private patient rooms. Beginning in April, community groups will have the opportunity to tour a mock patient room, which is where we are today, and a mock pre-op post-anesthesia care unit, and provide feedback about the setup. Chad and Regina are going to chat with me today about why the tours are being conducted and why it's important to get community feedback from those they serve. Welcome, both of you, today to Fairfield Today. Thank you for joining me. To start, can one of you give me a brief overview of Project Bright and what Bright actually stands for?
Well, I'll tell you what BRIGHT stands for. BRIGHT is actually an acronym that stands for Build, Revitalize, and Innovate for Greater Healthcare Tomorrow. So instead of just calling it our building project, we wanted to give it something. But the other reason we used BRIGHT is there will be a lot of glass, a lot of bright, natural light coming into this new building. And so we really wanted to emphasize that, as that's going to be part of the theme of that whole construction as well.
And there probably was considerable thought behind the purpose of that open air, the light, the natural light coming into the building too.
Exactly. That is one of the great things now, is you really want to create a healing environment, not only for our patients, but their families too. As many of us know, when you are sick, but your loved ones kind of go through that whole process too. So we want it to be very calming, very relaxing for everybody coming into the facility.
I've often said healthcare is a team sport.
That's a great, I want to steal that. It absolutely is. Not only with your family and your friends and all those people who come with you, but then all the caregivers too. And it's also very stressful for our employees. So also bringing in that natural light is a great thing for our staff to have that too. So in that whole team atmosphere, it's a great point.
In terms of the overview, Chad, can you tell me a little bit about when did ground actually break and where are we at today? How far along are we?
We had a great groundbreaking ceremony back in July of last year. Very good turnout. Very exciting. It was kind of a mock groundbreaking. We didn't break ground until about a month later. So we started in August. Right now we are a little behind because of the snow and the weather that we had, but we're still
Ohio winters are challenging, but this particular winter was extra super duper challenging.
It was, and my snow removal budget will indicate that. But yeah, it put them behind a little bit, but we're still on pace to open in May of 15. We're going to do a soft opening or an occupancy for the hospital in March, and then we'll have a soft opening in May.
Of next year.
Of 2015, yes. So we're about a little over a year out right now from actually occupying the building, which is exciting. Right now, they're almost finished pouring all the concrete. They've got one more slab to pour and a few more of the foundation walls, and they're done. Steel comes next week, so starting next week, it'll start looking like a building. So anybody that wants to drive by and get a look at it, just make sure you're not doing any looky-loos. We don't want any accidents on Ewing, but it'll be a really cool thing starting next week, because you'll see some steel. And people can get on our website and check out our camera. We have a time-lapse camera that shows the progression from... We put it up in October, so you can see the progression from October until now. And so you can actually see how much snowfall we had accumulate, too, if you watch that. But it's definitely a neat thing that we have to offer.
I had occasion to be in the hospital in the last couple of months, and one of the bridges that connects one section of the hospital to the other overlooked the construction area. And when you're up looking down into it as opposed to driving by on Ewing Street, you get a much better perspective. So I think it will be interesting for folks to drive by and actually see something come up out of the ground rather than have to be up high looking down in.
Just seeing the green fence, because if you're driving along Ewing or even pulling in the parking lot, all you see is the green construction fence. But once they start setting that steel, we'll have a 6-story connector that's going to connect it. So you'll see quite a bit of activity that's going to happen in a couple weeks. So it's getting to be really exciting, and everybody will start to see exactly what's going on, because now people will go up and peek their head in the little holes and try to see, what's going on. So it's definitely it'll be exciting. We're having this really cool ceremony too. We're going to do a beam setting ceremony. So the second week, the 12th, Monday the 12th, we're going to start hospital week here. We're having a beam. It's the last beam that we're going to set. We're going to set it up so all the staff and people can sign it. And then the first or second week in June, we're going to have a ceremony where we set the beam. It's called a topping ceremony. They put a spruce or some type of pine tree on top of it to ward off evil spirits, good luck. They're going to set that up, so we'll have a big ceremony when that happens too. So that's going to be another exciting thing.
Okay, well, we'll look forward to that. I know there was great thought, like I said, not only to the natural light, but the general overall expansion and its purpose and how it will improve not only the hospital facility, but the whole patient experience, the family experience, not just like we talked earlier with the natural light, but the broader purpose. Could either or both of you talk about that?
I'll talk about that a little bit. One of the things is you were a patient, you said. When you're in the hospital now and in our current patient rooms, especially the ones that are semi-private, they're very crowded, and they don't really allow us to accommodate family and friends and visitors easily. And then it makes it challenging for the caregivers to come in. So if you have somebody with like an x-ray machine and they're bringing that big equipment in, it's very hard for them to navigate that. So this design is really created so that there's room for the staff to work, there's patient area, and then there's family area. So there's designated what we call zones: staff zone, patient zone, family zone, so that when people are coming in and out of this room, like in our mock room here, the staff coming in and out, there's not visitors here that they're going to have to move and say, oh, we need you to scoot over, we need to bring this in. All that happens, and the patient's family can be sitting over here completely out of the way and still be here for the patient as they're needed. And that has just been a big frustration. And I know when my mom was here, I'm one of 9 kids, so there's always like a third of us in the room. Why we feel like we have to do that, I don't know. But we do that, and so anytime someone came in, we had to move, get out of the way, just for her to get basic care. So this is really going to make that part very easy. The other thing is, I mentioned the semi-private rooms, that when this tower opens, then all the rooms in the existing tower will go to private rooms.
Oh.
And so that will be a huge, huge help. Just imagine it. You're sick, you're feeling very, very uncomfortable, you don't feel your best, and then you have a complete stranger and their family that you don't know in the room with you. It just is, again, not that healing environment we want. So when this is done, even though they won't be looking as fabulous as this room does, but they will immediately go to them private rooms, and that's going to be a huge help.
And we are... the construction, there is going to be construction that occurs on the rest of the tower. We'll go back eventually. Once this is done, I would say probably 16, 17, 18 time frame, we're going to go back and remodel the tower. So that way they'll become an actual private room. I mean, like Regina said, we'll take beds out, but then we'll go back and change the layout of it to make it as much like this as possible. Now, this is a large room. I mean, we're looking at about 350 square feet in this room, and you can.
Will that be typical in the new section, or something close to this, maybe?
This is exactly what it's going to look like. This is actually only a foot short because of the amount of space. So so it's going to be a big room, and you can really tell when you have a bunch of people in here. It doesn't look as big until you have about 10 people standing in here. Then you realize that it is a very big room. We've had that on a couple occasions. So.
Well, I've had, for any number of family members, occasion to visit several hospitals and be in several different rooms, and this is very large by any standard of any facility we've been in Central Ohio. So I commend you for that, because when you do have a loved one who's here, and maybe you are staying an extended period of time, or even if you're just popping in and out and there are several of you, you do want to feel comfortable. You don't want to feel like you're sitting on the bed or on the lap of the patient, and you certainly don't want to get underfoot of the caregivers, because they're the ones making the loved one feel better. So I certainly appreciate this from my experience. Well, when we first talked, when I first opened the show, we talked about the need, or you guys opening this facility up for community groups to come in. Tell me why that's important.
Well, really simple things that when you have an idea and you think about it, and you know how I picture it versus how Chad pictures it, we might see things a little bit differently. Like, we say the same thing, but I've got a different plan behind it. And so putting this mock room together really helped us understand how all the pieces and parts work together. And one simple example is the door that's going back here.
Okay,
It's
step
labeled,
out of the way here.
yeah, it's labeled F back here. It's actually a door that's going into the bathroom. And in our original mock-up, our original one was all cardboard. It was not nearly as fancy as this. The door came out and it came into the family area. And we have a patient and family advisory council, so family members, patients who are frequent at Fairfield Medical Center, and they're supporters of us, but they're really honest with us. They tell us what works, what doesn't work. And they said, this doesn't work. This is going to constantly be in the family's way. Could we do some kind of pocket door or a sliding door? So that kind of feedback from people who are constantly in the hospital environment to say how much easier and helpful this will be to patients and families, because they love the big door. So if I need help going to the restroom, someone can go with me all the way to the restroom. We don't have that minute of, okay, I'll catch you once we get inside. But we got that covered, but then the door created a different thing. So it just helps us, okay, here's the reality of accommodating a bigger door to the bathroom. Now it creates a different problem. How do we fix that? And so getting that kind of feedback, we got from our own leadership, the team that's been working on it, our staff, and then from patients and families coming through. And it's amazing the things they think of. Poor Chad has redone the curtain into this room 100 different times on which is the best way it's going to work and not interrupt with stuff. So it's just been very helpful for all those little things. But when you're a patient or a family member or a staff member, it makes a world of difference in your work environment.
Chad, for those folks who we've been talking freely about a mock room, and we're standing in one, this is not a functioning room, but this is a sample. Is that how you, in the project, would define a mock room?
I would say it starts off as a sample. When we started this off, like Regina said, there was cardboard. We didn't have the finishes. And what we've been able to accomplish with this is we know that we don't like the finishes of, say, the nurse server, which is that piece of equipment over there, or we don't like the sink, or we don't like where something's laid out. This saves us a lot of money and effort in the future. You don't want to open up a room that you're not real happy with. So once we're done, before we build, we will have this 100% complete to exactly what we want it to be. So we'll have, other than the plumbing working, everything else will be functioning fully. It'll have the right finishes in it. It'll have the layout will be perfect, and then we can build from there and be confident that what we're building is going to be sufficient for care, and it's going to be something that everybody's agreed on, which we don't always get 100% agreement, but for the most part, the majority is going to agree that yes, this is the layout that we want, and this is how we're going to provide care for the future.
But Lisa, don't let them treat you down here. This is not a room you can come down and get care. That's it.
I am guessing that the staff had input before you've opened it up to the community groups. Maybe tell us a little bit about that.
We started off in March, actually, with our tours. Staff came down here first. We had questionnaires for clinical and non-clinical staff. Our Six Sigma department, Mike Tobin, took all the numbers and put it together and gave us a little data sheet on what everybody thought, what their opinions were. And a lot of it was useful information that we were able to take back to the Interiors Committee and the construction team and look and see what changes we would like to make for it. Everybody had their own opinion on it. Your clinical staff was looking at things differently than your non-clinical staff. So it was great to get both of their inputs.
Well, you need both of their inputs because both of them are functioning in the room. Despite the differences in their jobs, they're both serving the patient, but in different ways. So
absolutely, my staff maintenance, they had their own issues with the rooms because they're looking at how they're going to maintain the room when they're done. So yes, everybody had their unique perspective on the room, which was really good to have.
Well, great. Well, we're going to take a break now, and when we come back, we'll continue with the update on Project Bright at Fairfield Medical Center as we continue here today on Fairfield Today.
Body language. Without saying a word, it can tell you so much. Like someone is having a stroke. Know the sudden signs. Learn fast. F, face drooping. A, arm weakness. S, speech difficulty. T, time. Time to call 911 immediately. The sooner they get to the hospital, the sooner they'll get treatment. And that can make a remarkable difference in their recovery. Learn the body language, the sudden signs, and spot a stroke fast.
Welcome back to Fairfield Today. We are celebrating the progress of Project Bright, the $37.8 million expansion at Fairfield Medical Center. We are touring 2 mock rooms. We just left the patient room, and now we are in front of the pre-op post-anesthesia care unit. So what would a patient be in here for? And I'm going to step out of the way.
This area right here is for any patient prior to surgery or when they come out of surgery and they're recovering. So the rooms, what happens currently is we have a pre-op area, and it's real busy in the morning and the early part of the day, and then the post-op is real busy at the end of the day. So these rooms will kind of flex. They'll have some that are pretty much designated, but when it gets busy, they can use some more of those rooms for pre-op, and then at the end of the day, when it's busy for the post-surgeries, they can stretch those rooms back and forth. So this is, just where you come right before and right after surgery to kind of get ready for it and recover.
And how does this differ in terms of what is in the room and what you have to do in the construction phase? It doesn't look quite as big.
Well, it is smaller than a standard inpatient room, but I will tell you it is much larger and much more private than our existing pre-op PACU rooms. Right now you have curtains between the beds, so you'd have a bed here and a bed about 5 feet away, and there'd be curtains between the 2 beds. Now you've got walls. There's not going to be any doors, but you will have walls for privacy. So this room is a lot more simple than the patient room. It's not going to have as much going on because people aren't going to be here for an extended period of time. So what you see now, other than some changes in the collars, it's pretty much the way it's going to be. We're going to do some accent wall just to add a little color to it and put some artwork in here. There is a TV back here. But it is pretty much the way it's going to be in the finish. And then if you look between the rooms, there's going to be a little charting station. Sorry for walking out of the screen so quickly on you. There's a little station here. The nurses or the anesthesiologists can come in here, look through some charts and everything. Just have a little workspace, little drawer here. It's going to be between each room. The only difference there's 35 of these rooms. There is going to be 2 that are specifically for peds. They're going to be, we took 3 rooms and made 2 rooms out of it. So it's going to have doors on it. It's going to be a larger area specifically for pediatrics and their families. So you'll have 3 or 4 chairs in here so your family can come in and sit and wait with the children while they're recovering from surgery or before they go for surgery.
The important reason that there's doors on the kids' rooms is that kids coming out of anesthesia are usually loud, they're crying, they've kind of experienced, they don't know really what's going on, and so this gives them and their parents some privacy, and it also doesn't disturb the other patients who are also coming out of anesthesia, who are then being alarmed by a baby or a child screaming. So it just a little buffer there. And I had some experience with my husband came in for surgery, and you have the curtain between, as Chad said, and literally where my chair was, you can feel the other families on the other side. So it was, I knew more about those people than I think they wanted me to know about them. So it's really that confidentiality. And when you talk about getting the voice of our customers, the reason there's not doors is for our anesthesiologists and our surgery. One of the things they want to be able to do is really keep an eye on their patients, make sure they're still breathing after surgery. It's really time that they heavy hands on, eyes on the patient. So they didn't want any barriers between that. So it still allows privacy, but it still allows for the safest and best care for our patients.
Well, and these are just 2 rooms. Behind us, for those community groups and folks who come for the tours, Chad, there are some renderings up there, and we're going to show those here in a minute. But could you tell us what the renderings indicate and what is actually illustrated there for our viewers?
Yeah, we have some more renderings over next door that we're going to bring over here. But what it's doing is this one on the right, it is a rendering of our rooms we're currently looking at, the pre-op PACU room. So it's going to show you basically a 3-dimensional view of what these rooms are going to look like. Some of the corridor, some of the nurse workstation area, it's going to show that. We go over here to the one in the middle. This is our new connector. This is the first floor coming in from what used to be the south entrance. This will show what it's going to look like in the surgical waiting area and the connector between the 2 buildings. The connector, we're going to have a 6-story connector that connects Project Bright to our existing tower.
So does that mean each floor will connect to each floor when you say 6 stories?
Each floor except for maternity. We're going to have a 2-story atrium in the first floor. So, to give us that openness, that feel. So OB is the only floor that will not connect. All other floors from the 6th floor down will connect to it. And that is the rendering on the left, which shows what the front of the building, it's basically the southeast elevation is what it's going to show you, and show you how we're tying in the two buildings. So it's a way to make the buildings look like one, instead of having a surgical building here and then you have the existing patient tower. Now it all looks one, and that's what we want. We want this to be one building. We don't want it to say this is the surgical building, this is the patient tower.
Or it probably would be the old section versus the new section. And all of us who are non-medical or don't work here, we would refer to it probably as old or new.
Absolutely, and that's another challenge we're faced with right now. We are getting a group together to determine what we're going to call these, because everybody has their own name for it, just like you said. So we want to make sure that we can direct people there with proper signage and let people know at doctor's office visits, hey, this is where you need to go. So once we figure that out, I think it'll be an easier flow for everybody. But for us, it's very easy because we live it every day. But those people who aren't from the hospital, you have a hard time finding your way around.
And very often when they are here, they're not thinking their best, they're not at their best, because they're usually not coming here unless they need to, and usually it's not always for a good reason. It may be, but not always. But sometimes when you're going to a hospital, you're just not thinking your best.
Absolutely. People get really nervous and scared going to hospitals. I know myself, if I have to go to another hospital, it's the same scenario. You don't know where you're going. We just know it because we work here every day. So we want to make it as easy as possible for everybody when they come in, so they know where they're going and they know what building they're supposed to be in.
And they will appreciate it, as will I, if I ever have occasion to come back. So we have had a lovely day here, and we've seen the mock rooms. We've explained what they'll do and why they're doing it, and the part of the bigger project. I'm hoping we have piqued some interest, and that we will have community groups and others that would be interested in coming and taking the tour. How can they get more information about doing that, and about how much time should they plan on in when they make that appointment?
You would at least need a half an hour to really go in and appreciate the facilities. They're really self-guided. We have a little sheet that kind of explains everything. So the letters that people see up and around behind us, that's referred to, so then you can kind of understand, okay, what's this, what's the purpose of it, and it explains it on here, and then it gives us a chance to have some feedback. But again, about a half an hour for that. Lynn Lutz, who is our administrative secretary, she can be reached at 740-687-8077. If you give her a call, tell her what community group you're with, and she can help coordinate that.
And I understand there is there's a possibility to get regular updates about Project Bright, and that's a weekly electronic newsletter. How could folks learn about that?
Well, and again, it looks just like the same heading, the Project Bright newsletter. I'm going to do a cheat sheet to make sure I'm giving them the right address here, but it's an email address. If you email marketing@fmchealth, fmchealth.org. They'll add you to a list. They send it out weekly, and it tells you everything from, when we added our parking, we had valet. When we added that, any updates, just changes, because with construction, there's constantly changes. We have to tweak where you come in or just where we can park, and that is just a great thing to know and be aware of. And I encourage any of our healthcare partners and physician offices to get on that mailing list, because it'll be really helpful information for them to share with their patients.
And Chad, you talked earlier about going to the website to see that time lapse, and my guess is if the viewers would go to www.fmchealth.org, there's a special icon or somewhere on that homepage they could click in to see the snow and how things have progressed now that we are to April and into May.
Yes, there is a link. If you go down, it says, I think, help me if I'm wrong, Regina, construction time-lapse camera or something like that. You click on that, and you can go on there and click to the right. It'll let you go all the way back, and you can click the speed that you want to run it in. I don't recommend running it in 1x because that'll take you forever.
I recommend 16x, because otherwise it looks like at first all they do is move a bulldozer back and forth for the longest time, but there's really work happening. So, but if you do it by the 16x, so 16 times, and it's really fast. I'm kind of a geek, but I mean, I really loved it, and it's just kind of fascinating to see all the change and where they start digging, and it's just been amazing.
And it updates every 15 minutes, so it is a 15-minute time-lapse video. So it takes multiple still shots throughout the day. So it's definitely a cool thing. We're going to take and do a little put a little video together after we're done with the project, and have just kind of an overview of the entire project. So it'll be pretty neat.
Well, thank you both for joining me today. On Fairfield Today, our guests have been Chad Cupp, who is manager of Fairfield Medical Center's plant engineering, and Regina King, who is a patient experience advocate here. And we've been talking about Project Bright and how this $37.8 million expansion will improve not only the physical space for the staff to work in and tend to patients, but the patient experience as well. So I want to thank you both for that. And thank you for opening this up, not just to me and our viewers, but also to the community groups that may be interested. Again, if you're interested, marketing at fmchealth.org, and that will get you on the newsletter list. And from there, you can also call Lynn Lutz at 687-8077 to schedule a time for your community group if you'd like to spend a half hour or so, which is the recommended time, to come and look at the mock rooms here. A couple of announcements we'd like to share for you about activities going on here at Fairfield Medical Center. On Saturday, May 17th from 9 until noon, you're invited to a Celebrate You Symposium, which is a women's health event, and it's designed for women of all ages to learn from Fairfield Medical Center healthcare practitioners about a variety of items. If you're interested, again, respond to marketing at 687-8007. And then Race for the Cure will be held on Saturday, May 17th at 8 a.m. And this is a Susan G. Komen Race for the Cure 5K run and walk. And if you'd like to sign up for that, go to the, oh boy, that's a complicated. Why don't you just call marketing or email marketing at fmchealth.org and they can refer you to that. And then please don't forget Twig 14's Night of Light, which is Sunday, May 25th at 8 p.m. It's an opportunity for the community to join the Twig for live musical celebration and 200 floating lanterns in honor or memory of people who are near and dear to you. If you're interested, pick up a registration form or call marketing here at Fairfield Medical Center. Thank you once again for joining us on Fairfield Today. I'm Lisa Hooker, and we look forward to seeing you next time.
Interface Video presents Fairfield Today. Brought to you by Fairfield Federal Savings and Loan, Fairfield Medical Center, Fairhope Hospice and Palliative Care, the Fairfield County Board of Developmental Disabilities, the Frankie Smith Funeral Home, Ohio University Lancaster, and Lancaster Fairfield Community Action Recycling and Litter Prevention.